Here in the United States, we've been dealing with a slight infestation of fascists. In case you missed it, our former president, Donald Trump, was just indicted for the fourth time, facing a total of 91 criminal charges. And many of those charges are related to his actions in allegedly trying to overturn the 2020 election, which he lost to Joe Biden. It's not a surprise that he would try to do that because he told us all that he would repeatedly before the election even started. He has always been anti-democracy. It's just been clearer and clearer as the days go on, as the years went on, and he desperately tried to maintain power. This leads us to a tiny little problem. You know, we live in a democracy, so presumably, as long as the majority of people want to keep that democracy going, we are protected from fascism, right? We can just choose to not vote fascists into office, right? That's how it should work, I think, right? House Republicans were rewarded for supporting Donald Trump's Stop the Steal efforts, claims a study published this month in my favorite journal, Penis. God damn it, you guys. I thought we all agreed that we wanted a democracy, right? Let's dig into this one. The study authors note that a few previous analyses have found that maybe Republican Congress critters who made statements suggesting that Trump actually won the election did slightly worse in the midterms. But they wanted to do a more comprehensive overview, looking at the politicians who not only were vocally supportive of Trump, but the ones who actually took action to help keep Trump in office, to help Trump steal the election, in the form of 4 congressional votes. One to decertify votes on January 6th for Arizona voters, another one to decertify votes for Pennsylvania voters, one to not impeach Trump the following week, and one to block the investigation of the January 6th insurrection. They looked at all of the Republicans who voted to basically throw democracy in the trash during one of those votes. And then they looked to see if those were punished by voters in the midterm elections compared to the politicians who voted to uphold democracy. And what they found was that there was no difference between the two when it came to the general election. The fascists did no better and no worse than the others. But they also found that the fascists were less likely to lose primary elections, more likely to run unopposed in the general election, more likely to run for higher office, and less likely to retire from politics. So yeah, that sucks. But does it mean that Republican voters hate democracy? Not necessarily. Like, yes, some of them absolutely do. No question. They tell us that. But in my opinion, this study doesn't actually tell us, as they write, that voters are not reliable guardians of democratic norms. And why is that? Because we don't live in a democracy. That's right. I lied earlier when I said we live in a democracy. I'll give you a second to recover from that shocking twist. But yeah, we don't live in a democracy. And I'm not talking about some gotcha question on your 6th grade social studies exam where you're supposed to know that, well, actually, the United States is a constitutional republic. No. I mean that even in the most basic definition of democracy, it includes several features that are distinctly lacking in the United States, where an individual's vote does not necessarily matter, corporations are seen to have rights and liberties equivalent to people, and where a minority of religious extremists hold a disproportionate amount of power, and they use that power to remove rights from other people. For instance, let's talk about gerrymandering. In the United States, voters are organized into districts, with each district voting for their own representative. But it's the representatives who are in charge of determining the boundaries of those districts. Gerrymandering is when they draw those boundaries in ways that benefit them and their political party by, for instance, putting all of the Democrat voters in one place to reduce their votes' impact in other places, or by spreading them out in such a way that they're diluted by their Republican neighbors. It is literally a way to make one person's vote count less than another person's vote. It is inherently anti-democratic. Just last month, another Penis article looked at this very topic. Political scientists at Yale and Harvard teamed up to create nonpartisan redistricting maps across the United States according to the laws and regulations regulations of each state. And they compared those fair maps to the ones drawn by Congress in 2020. They found that their fairer maps would give the Democrats 2 extra seats in the House of Representatives. Not a huge amount, you might think, but that's probably because the Democrats are gerrymandering too, which is not good. On a local level, they point out that this problem is absolutely horrible. But, because Republicans are slightly better at it than Democrats, they end up at a national level with a slight advantage. The authors found widespread partisan effects, writing that many states have enacted districting plans with partisan biases that decrease electoral competitiveness and responsiveness, limiting the voters' ability to hold politicians accountable. They also point out that their fair map might not even actually be truly fair because they had to follow the rules and regulations of each individual state, which all differ from one another in ways that, who knows, might be unfair. Future research needed. So yeah, gerrymandering, one reason why your vote may count less than your friend's vote. And even if the candidate you vote for actually does win, this study shows gerrymandering is one reason why that politician may be less likely to follow through on their promises made during their election, or less likely to listen to your opinion when you call their office, or, less likely to actually represent you in a way that would be expected in a representative democracy. And they might be more likely now to listen to the ideas of the corporations that are providing them money to get reelected. In fact, did you know that 90% of the politicians in the House of Representatives outspent their opponents in the general election? And did you know that thanks to the 2010 Citizens United Supreme Court decision, corporations can donate money to candidates who will support legislation that favors them? This report from the Center for Political Accountability was published in 2020 and specifically warned about corporations funneling nearly $1 billion into politicians to hamstring climate change and anti-discrimination efforts, and, to gerrymander districts, diluting Black and brown voters' power at the ballot box and strengthening Republican strangleholds. Again, to be clear, I'm not saying that there aren't Republican voters out there who genuinely would like to do away with democracy if it means we get dictator Trump in power for the rest of their lives. But they aren't the majority of the U.S. population, and they're not even the majority of U.S. voters, where only about 60% of Americans who can vote do vote, which is another huge problem for democracy. And also, Trump didn't even win the popular vote. So Electoral college is another way in which your vote counts less than someone else's vote. And we could go on and on. But even amongst those fascist supporting Republican voters, are we really able to say that they are making a free and fair decision to vote for these politicians? Can we say that when the most watched news network in the country is Fox News with 2.2 million primetime viewers? A network that settled a lawsuit for $787 million because of their reckless disregard for the truth. Because they repeatedly told these viewers that the voting machines were rigged to give Donald Trump's votes to Joe Biden. No, those viewers are not tied to chairs with toothpicks in their eyelids, forced to watch this garbage. But let's be honest, one way or another, our society has failed these people. Our parents, our schools, our government didn't give them the education and the critical thinking skills and the resources to see through these obvious lies. And we're all suffering because of it. Democracy is suffering because of it. I guess what I'm saying is that in a way, I do sort of agree with this study, where I started off saying I didn't agree with this. Voters are not reliable guardians of democratic norms because they can't be right now. The deck is stacked against us. We can and should vote as hard as we can. We should Pokemon go to the polls. We should call and bully our representatives into representing us. But at the end of the day, it's going to take systemic changes. It's going to take those representatives finally deciding to grow a spine or a sense of morality in order to achieve any meaningful change. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.